My name is Christian Ashley, a seminary student and servant of God, and you are listening to the Let Nothing Move You podcast, a proud Anazal Ministries podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to the next episode of the Let Nothing Move You podcast as we continue on through the book of Joshua. Today, we're going to be in Joshua 5 through 6, and it's not just me today. I have, of course, my partner in crime, my podcasting friend and in-life friend, too. And when we do actually get to meet up every now and then, Karai Rowe of the Foreign Saints podcast. How's it going, Karai?
It is going great. It's going great. I managed to not die. Praise Yah. And driving back in this crazy snow. Not my smartest move, but hopefully we can remedy that with some smart exegesis of scripture here. Thank you for having me on, my friend.
Absolutely. It's a nice, cozy day for the most part, other than driving through snow. Just actually having snow in North Carolina. Oh man, it feels pretty good.
Yeah, it's insane. Absolutely insane. All of this. I feel like God was offended at people that dared hypothesize that Helene was government work. He said, nah, let me show you what I can do. Let me show you what I always do. Oh man. Yeah. That's something, man.
All right. Well, let's go get into this, boy. We'll start in chapter 5 and verses 1 through 9. As soon as all the kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan to the west, and all the kings of the Canaanites who were by the sea, heard that the Lord had dried up the waters of the Jordan for the people of Israel until they had crossed over, their hearts melted, and there was no longer any spirit in them because of the people of Israel. At that time, the Lord said to Joshua, make flint knives and circumcise the sons of Israel a second time. So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised the sons of Israel at Gibeath Haraloth. And this is the reason why Joshua circumcised them. All the males of the people who came out of Egypt, all the men of war, had died in the wilderness on the way after they had come out of Egypt. Though all the people who had come out had been circumcised, yet all the people who were born on the way in the wilderness after they had come out of Egypt had not been circumcised. For the people of Israel walked 40 years in the wilderness until all the nation, the men of war who came out of Egypt, perished. Because they did not obey the voice of the Lord swore to them that he would not let them see the land that the Lord had sworn to their fathers to give to us, a land flowing with milk and honey. So it was their children whom he raised up in their place that Joshua circumcised, for they were uncircumcised because they had not been circumcised on the way. When the circumcising of the whole nation was finished, they remained in their places in the camp until they were healed. And the Lord said to Joshua, today I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you. And some of the name of that place is called Gilgal, which means to roll, to this day.
Man,
take it away, my friend.
I've rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you. What a choice of words. Am I right?
Right.
What a choice of words, man. See, those of y'all that aren't used to me being around because it's been a minute, y'all got to understand. Christian knows this about me, that whenever I read the Tanakh, and this is why he likes having me on, because I have a hyper focus on finding Jesus in the text. That's what Jesus said, that Moses and all the prophets wrote about him, and the themes and the histories and the story choice and what was focused on. It's all meant to emphasize and be a foreshadow and a trailer of Jesus, that Messiah to come. So odd turns of phrases will always catch me by surprise, man. I've rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you. At what other event did Yahweh roll away reproach from in Egypt from you? In Luke's gospel, Jesus actually calls his mission in Exodus on the Mount of Transfiguration, that he's going to go to Jerusalem and perform an Exodus, going to roll away reproach. This is the prefigurement, the Lord going before his people as the general that never loses the battle, to freely give the victory to his people. It didn't earn it, couldn't win it. But because God's just that nice, I'm going to let you into the after party anyway. You know, what a God, man. What a God. And that's just, and that's just verse 9. That's me skipping to the end. Yeah. There's so much more, there's so much more before this. Man, drinking my prebiotic soda. That'll definitely definitely charge you up with gas right there. Something else that I was me and Christian were talking about off air the other day was just how God kind of let his people share in his aura, so to speak. Earlier up in verse 1, that the hearts of the people melted. They had no spirit, they had no fight. Specifically, it says because of the people of Israel. And that's not just a translation fluke. It's, CSB also words it that way. And I just think so many times experientially in life, God, kind of like an optical illusion in a way, makes you look bigger than you are sometimes to your enemies. Like when God goes before you, you might just be 1, 2, or 3, but he'll make you look like you're rolling 300 deep. And that's why you want to roll. That's why you want to roll with Yah, man. That's why you want to roll with Yahweh. Because one don't have to be one. I know the Muslims don't like that, but, perks.
Yeah, we'll save the rolling for a bit. And surprisingly, this won't be the only time we bring up Jesus today, because there's more to come. So let's focus on the beginning there. Yeah. Joshua 4:24 says, so that all the peoples of the earth may know that the hand of the Lord is mighty, that you may fear the Lord your God forever. And we talked last time about how we fear God correctly. We don't live in a state of, oh no, he could punish me at any second. We live in a fear of knowing his power and his glory, and that we serve the God who can destroy the soul. And yet he has still come to us and redeemed us and loves us. So out of fear and recognition of that, I do fear him, and I fear him well without, being an idiot about it. And so to contrast that, directly leading, because remember, chapter and verse don't exist when this is originally being written. We get the people of Canaan. And what do they do? These Amorites, these Canaanites, they fear because they know something impossible just happened. There's about 2 million people on their borders on the other side of this Jordan River that is overflowing, flooded. Like, well, they can't come over here. If they even try and use ships or whatever to get over, they probably will die in the attempt. But what happens? It gets split, and they walk on dry land, and now they're on the other side. If you're not afraid of that, I don't know what's wrong with you. So, of course, God is protecting Israel through fear, not only of his power, but of the power of his people that he's backing up. And like you brought up before, unbelievers, they fear God. And the lost fear God. And if they're going to be honest about it, that's why they react as they do, whether it is, lashing out or denying truth or what have you, or resisting, evangelization. It's because they fear God and his power, and they fear the power of his people.
Yeah, it's amazing to meditate on this idea, this fact that it was Yahweh's will that this whole city, this whole camp of unbelievers be afraid. Like that was Yahweh's divinely orchestrated will. The Israelites didn't do anything to cause the people on the other side of this river to be afraid. That's all God. People of Israel barely made it this far, for being honest with their story, right? And again, it just makes me think of people today that will blame their so-called religious trauma that they deconstructed on the Christian faith community. And sometimes that's warranted, if your pastor abused you physically or anything like that, got that. But a lot of times what people are calling, religious trauma, religious discomfort, whatever, is just Yahweh choosing to press upon them the fear of him and them kind of squirming underneath that heat. And because they, a la Romans 1, don't want to acknowledge God for who he is, will blame God's people for the spiritual sensation that God is causing in them. Like, how many times have you as a Christian, been blamed for something you didn't do? I'm not the one that caused you to have any kind of discomfort when you read Genesis and learned about gender or sexuality or self-sacrifice from Jesus. I wasn't the one that caused you to do that. Well, I mean, it just, religion just seems so tough. Well, Jesus was the one that said, be perfect as my heavenly Father is perfect. I didn't say that. So I'm not the one pressing the fear of God into you. I think that's just a natural result of encountering the living God in the text. There is a truth here that Yahweh is perfectly okay with you being terrified of him when you first encounter him, because it's at that point where you start to recognize need. Oh, that's what I'm in rebellion against? That God, the God that can just sweep an ocean to the side, and I'm just, I'm just a human. Yeah, that should probably terrify you, In a similar way to me driving through this blizzard freaking terrified me at a certain point when I was like, oh, I have severely, perhaps lethally, underestimated what I decided to pit myself up against. I probably should have respected this more. And let's be honest, I probably should have been afraid of this more. It's not a word that we like to use because that's just so toxic. Yeah. But, when the alternative is throwing yourself up against, a brick wall that possesses all the omnis, yeah, fear might have been your friend in that scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to see how that fear develops even through the next chapter, too. Well, even with Joshua and how he handles what happens in the end of this chapter, but then how the people of Jericho handle their fear. But as well here, unless you have something else you want to add to the fear thing.
Oh, no. Like you said, it gets developed.
Yeah. We see a curious episode here where the men of Israel under a certain age need to get circumcised. And this is after the law has been given. This is after everything's been told. This is what you need to do. They've got the stories of Abraham and how God started this, and yet it hasn't been done this whole time. Mm-hmm. Like, why wasn't this circumcision practiced before entering the promised land? Let's see what you have to say.
Oh, man, why was the circumcision not practiced before entering the promised land? Well, it was, and then it wasn't, right? Like, you got that faithless generation that was like moving through the wilderness. If I remember correctly, they're like that very first generation was circumcised. And then,
yes,
we fell off the horse, we fell off the wagon, as it were. And so, you might call this a biblical case for rededication services at church, since this is very much what this is. You dedicated yourself to me, at Sinai. And then very quickly, everything fell apart. And you decided to live an entire generation's worth of time and waste time, really, wandering around outside of faith. Let's rededicate you before we go off into spiritual warfare, which again, I think there's a two-pronged lesson there, which is as long as you're breathing on this side of the veil, on this side of death, you can always rededicate yourself to Christ. And in a way, you quote unquote lose nothing for it because, let's pick up where we left off. Now the Israelites did lose something for it, 40 years. However long. Could have been here 40 years ago, which is incredible, by the way, that after 40 years, the fear of Yahweh remains in the area. It's like you read that sentence and then, at least me personally, my squirrel brain just kind of forgets that this is 40 years later. I just think this is 40 seconds later. But Nah. What happened made an impact, and God leveraged their rebellion to kind of let the people on the other side of the Jordan just stew in this. So in a way, God leverages the rebellion of Israel to give a longer window of repentance to the Gentiles. Not unlike this current Gentile age, where the rebellion of national Israel from the gospel has created this gigantic window of opportunity for at least 2 millennia for us Gentiles. Again, praise be to God who flips everything, for kingdom benefit. But the other lesson here is that you better make sure that you are rededicated. You better make sure that your house is in order before you march off to spiritual warfare. Not after, because, Satan plays for keeps. And he's not it's not in his best interest to give you a mulligan. Oh, my bad, Satan. I didn't actually mean, I didn't mean tip off now. I thought we were still in shoot around. Nah. See, I hate you. So no, you walked outside without a raincoat. That's tough. Without a sword, even. Sucks to be you.
Yeah. And you could argue it's like, what were the priests teaching them correctly or all the time? But I think this was deliberately done to not have the children of this age be circumcised, to contrast the generation that came before, to contrast the one that came out of Egypt, who were physically circumcised, but their hearts weren't circumcised.
Mm-hmm.
And here we have both happening. These children of Israel who have grown up in the desert in these 40 years, have become men, but there's also those who are just been born and all that. And now they've got to make a choice. You cross the Jordan, that's one thing. It's been shut off from you because, once again, as I said last time, God knows his art of war even better than Sun Tzu. And he knows if you don't leave it away for them to escape, they're not going to do something stupid and try running away. And here they show their faith once more in that they are actually following God and his commandments. Are they perfect? No. I have yet to meet a person who is. But their hearts at this point in time are circumcised inward, and physically they are circumcised outward. Mm-hmm. In a way that wouldn't have been done in the same way by their parents, by their grandparents, because they didn't do the job. And also, if you don't think this requires faith, let me remind you where they are. They've conquered the land on the other side of the Jordan. So why didn't they just do it there? Oh, because God, once again, wants to box them in and make sure that their end is for the right reasons. It's easier to say, hey, we can do this on the other side. Yeah, it's going to hurt, but there's no attacking army when the River Jordan's flooding. Now you're on the other side of it. There's no escape. Will you trust me that the fear that I've placed in the heart of the Canaanites and the fear of me and the fear they have of you is enough for you to be safe while you're doing this? Because technically speaking, this is stupid. you don't want all your fighting men to be in the pains of losing a part of their genitals right before you go into war, unless you're fighting for the guy who can guarantee your safety.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Lessons on lessons here, man. Lessons on lessons. Same lesson as really, he put them all in the same situation as Jacob. Wrestled with God, and his flesh became weaker for it. He became stronger. His flesh became weaker for it.
Yes.
It's like what was the evidence that Jacob had wrestled with God? He walks different. He walks in a way that is, with a limp, i.e., he walks less sure of his own strength. Because that's really the one of the key identifiers in the kingdom, right? Is that in a way, everyone in this kingdom, in a sense, walks with a limp. And, if you're not okay with that, then you cannot walk with me. Then you cannot walk with me, says God. Really the truth is everyone in or out of grace is walking with a limp. It's just whether or not you'll recognize that and come to him to let him be your 100%, wheelchair. Like, you can't walk. You're just in rebellion trying to crawl around on the floor. You need help.
Yeah.
You need help, because being boxed in the way they were, it's like, okay, circumcised or not circumcised. This is not a fight you can win in the flesh. So, a lesson in the Christian life is when you're feeling weak, you should get weaker. So that way God's power can be magnified all the more in and through you. That's a pretty surefire bet when the Christian is in distress versus whatever you used to do before. You were a Christian that didn't work, that brought you to Christ in the first place.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point in that, our encounters with God should make us look different in how we do, like, literally walk in our own lives. Is that something has been taken from me, that sense of assurance I had, and that I'm me, I'm the best, nothing can ever beat me, should be broken in me. And then that should channel into how I go to other people and how I talk to them, how I actually live out my life compared to where I was before, because I am broken in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a stallion needs to be broken before you can ride him. A good Christian needs to be broken before he can actually get work done.
Yes. So much. Yes. Gotta be, man. Gotta be. I mean, the Psalms kind of talk about this, right? Like, don't be like a horse or a mule that needs a bit and a bridle to keep it under control. Like, just be pliable. Just be pliable, man. I think of Romans 2, Romans 2:25, reading out of the CSB just because it's Paul, and so I'll take any advantage for clarity with Paul. Circumcision benefits you if you observe the law, but if you are a lawbreaker, your circumcision has become uncircumcision. This is a Pharisee of Pharisees speaking, right? This is New Testament, though. Yeah, but what is New Testament if not Spirit-inspired commentary on the Old Testament? What is it if not that? So if an uncircumcised man keeps the law's requirements, will not his uncircumcision be counted as circumcision? A man who is physically uncircumcised, but who keeps the law, will judge you who are a lawbreaker in spite of having the letter of the law and circumcision. For a person is not a Jew who is one outwardly, and true circumcision is not something visible in the flesh. On the contrary, a person is a Jew who is one inwardly, and circumcision is of the heart, by the Spirit, not the letter. That person's praise is not from people, but from God. So the hope and desire of the Spirit of God here in Joshua is that, okay, hopefully you've been broken to harness in such a way that I can continue to break you to harness. So let's get the outward sign done. Let's get this outward sign of circumcision done, and hopefully you get the point that lack of faith, that unbelief that was with you all in your journey through the wilderness, that lack of faith that caused your relationship to me to be tense instead of entirely life-giving. You should allow that to be cut away. So that way, we can just go into Satan's house and clean house. Doesn't that sound fun, sons and daughters? Doesn't that sound fun, kids? We can just walk into the enemy's house and just have a field day. Just have a field day. I got a great plan, says Yahweh. I like watching the little guys beat the big guys. I have a plan to let the sheep loose in the wolf pen for the glory of my name to be renowned. But, you're busy headbutting each other, headbutting me. Can't do it.
Absolutely. That's why I like having you on. Yeah. I mean, what other way can I put it than how you put it? I mean, be broken. That something should be lost from you, from who you were in our devotion to God. And yeah, circumcision is not required physically anymore. Now, if you want to do it, it's fine. Doctors are, trained to do it. But, it's not, we don't need to have that requirement. There's many times Paul talks about people. It's like, hey, you're missing the point.
Right.
If you do it physically, but there's no change in that person's heart, nothing's happened.
Yeah. It's like, he just,
what does it matter?
What are we doing?
That's why we don't baptize infants.
Oh, get them. Get them.
Sorry, I just had to throw that one in there. Seriously, though, that's why, Baptists and more non-denoms don't typically baptize infants. They are the pedo Baptists who do, and that doesn't mean that they're pedophiles. It means pedo child.
Got them.
And that they, baptize infants. But, obviously you're more familiar with Catholicism and Lutherans and so on and so forth who do baptize children. And the idea behind it is that this is a public symbol of us as a family, like getting behind them and, making sure they're raised right. But is that what we're told to do? Who's told to get baptized?
Yeah, man. Like, and that kind of slides into a discussion that I don't know, may or may not be slightly outside the purview of your episode today, but neither one of us really follows the rules. But like,
never,
like, like that whole, our whole, I don't want to say propaganda, but just what we say about baptism is like, find me chapter and verse, bro. Like, like, I would like to think that the actual public profession of my private faith is my evangelism and character, not so much the baptism. Like, if for no other reason than in the book of Acts, we see people get baptized in situations I cannot in good conscience call public. The Philippian jailer's baptism was private, not public in front of a crowd. The Ethiopian eunuch was not baptized in a way that you could consider to be public. There was no desire in the early church to withhold a baptism that was possible to do until such a time as you could have a crowd around you. It was always like baptism was always seemed to me meant to chronologically be placed as close as possible to the actual moment of your salvation. I think because baptism is more useful to the individual believer than it is to all the people that look at the individual believer. Because like circumcision, and for the record, I don't think baptism is circumcision. Like, I don't think those two things are analogous, to be honest. But one thing they do share in common is it was an outward physical symbol that could be looked at by us as a way to soothe our doubts about who we really are. Because you're going to have seasons in life where you don't feel like you're circumcised. You're going to have seasons in life where, man, was my baptism fake? Am I really legit? But instead of looking inward to yourself and trying to convince yourself that you're this awesome person, look outside of yourself. What are the external signs that God has given me that I'm legit? Baptism is one of those. Yes, I remember. I was baptized into his death. That is who I am. In a similar fashion, the Israelite, the male Israelite could look down and say, no, I am a man of God. He has me, even down to my most intimate parts. He has me. I am a man of God. Rock Kazakh. Let's run the faith. Let's do it. That's what I think these things are a lot more useful for, as someone that's traveled around the world, most people that I talk to don't have access to the fact that I'm baptized. You had to be there. So how do they know I'm a Christian? Because of my actual public sign, the profession, the confession. Yes. That's your public sign, the love that you have for people. And the gospel that stands on that foundation, that's your public profession, not whether or not they happen to be there 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago when you were baptized. Practically, that's never made much sense to me.
While we're on this rabbit trail, that's something I've considered a lot, especially, I am seeking a job in pastoral ministry somewhere. If I were to get to the point where someone came up to me and I was able to lead them to faith and then say, well, what's to prevent me from being baptized right now? Do I have to hold up? Baptisms are scheduled for the end of the month. There's a reason why people do that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason my current church does it that way. It's for everyone to see it together. But I wouldn't tell that person, no, we can't do it. You have to wait till the end of the month, which is what happened to me with my pastor when I was, 6 years old. I had to wait until a couple months later because that's when they were scheduled. And I was very upset as a child because I wanted it done that moment. And I don't think he was exactly wrong to tell me to wait, but he wasn't also right. Maybe there's something more to be said about that. But I think if I had my Ethiopian eunuch situation, we're going to the nearest creek and the brothers or sisters going underwater.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like people are afraid to baptize people falsely, which I totally understand. But I think that betrays that you've got a bit too much of your hand on the wheel a little bit. Jesus knows who are his.
Yeah.
Jesus knows. The parable of the net never put us fishermen in the role of fish sorters. Never put us in that role. Jesus very specifically actually said the angels will do that. You're going to throw the net of the gospel, catch all kinds of fish, and in the end, my boys, Gabriel and the boys, they'll sort them out. I'll tell them which ones to keep, which ones to toss back. You just gather as much as you can, heck, even Peter baptized a guy who turned out to be fake. And when it was revealed that the sorcerer was a son of Satan who was trying to just kind of deceive his way into power, Peter didn't, from the story, Peter blames him for lying.
Yeah.
Not, you know what I mean? He doesn't change the way he does things because of one person who lied about where they're at with the Lord. Peter just said, all right, that's on you. That's on you. You said you wanted Jesus. I gave him to you, but you were lying. I'm not going to stop the way that I do ministry because you wanted to be deceptive. Just the Lord will handle you.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Because too often I see people use that as a confirmation in the same way that a lot of people use circumcision as a confirmation. You're on the team if you are like this. If I have witnessed you, or I have a doctor's note or whatever of you being circumcised or you being baptized, then you're on the team automatically. No questions asked, which is a terrible way to run any ministry because you don't know that person's heart. I have never witnessed the soul of another human being. I can only know about me. And I can guess from different aspects of what I've seen you do that, oh, yes, because of this, I can say you're bearing fruit. 99 to 100% odds you're on the team.
Yep.
And even in this 2 chapters from now, one of these same people who are getting circumcised is going to defy God and steal and cause Israel to lose people in a war. That if he hadn't have been selfish and hadn't have cared about himself, that wouldn't have happened.
Yep. And Rahab and all the people in her house certainly weren't circumcised or gone through any of the histories of Israel to that point. But remember how Paul said in Romans that circumcision of the flesh isn't enough? Peter says the same thing concerning baptism. And 1 Peter 3, 21 going down. He says baptism, which corresponds to this. In context, he's saying that baptism actually corresponds to the flood of Noah and how God rescued Noah through the waters of judgment. That's straight from the apostle's mouth. Peter doesn't say baptism corresponds to circumcision. He doesn't say that. That's why I don't believe that it does, because Peter doesn't teach that it does. Baptism, which corresponds to this, the Ark of Noah, now saves you, not as the removal of dirt from the body, but the pledge of a good conscience towards God. That's how it reads in the CSB anyway. ESV, it says, baptism, which corresponds to this, now saves you, not as a removal of dirt from the body, but as an appeal to God for a good conscience through the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Right? So if your baptism, like your circumcision, if either one of those acts are not connected to a true repentant saving faith, they're worthless. They're worthless and self-deception, to be honest. You know what I mean? So in that way, baptism is like circumcision in that, yeah, you can't appeal to the action itself by virtue of the action as anything. You have to remember what it meant. You know, I remember that I was baptized, you know, in a time of weakness, in a time of fleshliness. You know, I remember, hey, I was baptized physically, which should remind me of the fact that, yes, and at that time, I was also baptized spiritually. That's how baptism serves us as God's people. And that's why it's important that it only be a one-time thing. So that way you don't accidentally slip into a gospel of works, thinking that your first baptism lost its efficacy. No, it didn't. You just need to return to the mercy seat. That's all you need to do.
Now, before we move on to the disgrace of slavery and the rolling, just a minor thing, because I know there's someone out there saying, but Christian, circumcision wasn't only an Israeli-only thing. Other cultures practice circumcision. What makes theirs so special? Well, just let's just use Egypt since they're close by. And they say they learned it from the Egyptians. Okay. No, number one, it's not how it's told. Two, let's look how the Egyptians did it, why they did it. To set them apart, and I mean them, the elite of Egypt were the ones who primarily were doing this from the common man. To show them, I can afford to do this. Look at me. I'm better than you because I went through this process. And also, it's a lot cleaner. Yes, medically, it is cleaner for that to be done. But they did this to look at those idiot poor people. I'm so above them. I'm doing this to set myself even further apart from them as compared to Israel, where every single male, regardless of status, regardless of age, had to undergo this process to set them apart completely from everyone else around them. Not as a way of showing that they're better, but to show that they are literally set apart.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Circumcision was practiced in many nations, but more often than not, I'm not saying poor people didn't get it, but the reason it was primarily done, from what I have researched, is to show nobility and refinement and say, I'm better than you peons.
Yeah. It's like a class symbol, like a socioeconomic thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
that's wild.
So let's go back to the rolling. God removes the disgrace of slavery in Egypt from the people of Israel. How does he do that? Rolling away. Gilgal comes from the verb galal, to roll, and also, I believe, the noun galgal, the wheel. So like a wheel that rolls on the ground forward, it no longer associates itself with where it was before it rolled forward.
Oh my!
Which is true
bro.
to the people of Israel. They're not where they were.
Oh my gosh, bro. That's crazy. Not like a wheel. Oh my gosh. This is all right. This is gonna. When's the last time you read Ezekiel chapter 1?
Last year.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, oh my gosh. So in Ezekiel chapter 1, Ezekiel sees a vision of Yahweh, the Lord. Yeah. In his throne chariot, as it were, you know, And there's a very specific verse that like I just got to find it. I might have to Google it actually. That
That's
I
fine.
have always remembered because it's funny to me. Let me see here. It's the wheels were awesome. And that's not even like I'm not even lying about that. Like that's just what he says. So
Yeah.
Ezekiel 118. Let me see. Ezekiel 118. I think it's in the ESV where he says it like that. Yeah. Ezekiel 118 in your ESV, literally Ezekiel describing Yahweh's throne chariot says, and their rims were tall and awesome. Yahweh has the best rims in the universe, confirmed. And
There's no need to pimp his ride.
No, he showed up to roll away Ezekiel's disgrace, and hopefully the nation of Israel's as well if they want to play ball. That's wild, bro. Rolled a dang, bro, like a wheel, bro. He showed up in his chariot to scoop his dime up and said, "Let's roll, girl. We got places to go."
You see what you discover when you actually read the book and you ask questions like, where'd that word come from? Why does it matter? Why did God word with things the way he did? You know what? You don't need to know Hebrew. I still don't know Hebrew, but I got books and I got websites I can go up to and they say, this is what this means. They're accredited. They're certified. I can trust their word. And looking this up, God describing this as wheeling you away, rolling you away from where you were to where you are now, that dirt from the past doesn't matter anymore. I brought you into the promised land, fools. Believe in me.
Yep. We done rolled it away, bruh. We done rolled it away. And of course, as I was saying at the top of the episode, you know, man, how can you not think of Calvary, bro? How can you not think of Calvary, man? When that stone rolled away, so did your disgrace, man. So did your
Amen to that.
reproach. Gone. Absolutely gone, bruh. Said, let's roll, girl. We got places to go. My gosh.
Well, now we spent about 43 minutes or so on the first 9 verses. Why don't we go to the next 3?
I knew it would be like this. I knew it would be like this. For the record.
I should know better.
For the record. I try. I aim for brevity when I'm a guest here. This man drags me down theological rabbit trails he knows I can't resist.
We do it to ourselves. We have no one else to blame. All right. Verses 10 through 12 of chapter 5. While the people of Israel were encamped at Gilgal, they kept the Passover on the 14th day of the month in the evening on the plains of Jericho. And the day after Passover, on that very day, they ate of the produce of the land, unleavened cakes and parched grain. And the manna ceased the day after they ate of the produce of the land. And there was no longer manna for the people of Israel, but they ate of the fruit of the land of Canaan that year.
The end of the manna. How about that? How about that, man? When they finally are at the foot of the promised land, you don't need this manna no more. Well, there's also the fact that the manna was also supposed to be like a character lesson as well. So there's also, I think, this idea of like, all right, the time of building, at least up to this point, should be over. You should have learned the lesson of the manna. You should have learned it by now, which is, you know, to rely on God. Like that was quite literally the test. It's not even something you have to deduce. Like the text of Numbers just straight up tells you that's why God did this thing. Like at the very start of the saga, it's like, yeah, no, I'm doing this, Moses. This is why I'm doing this. I'm the teacher that gives you the answer key. I'm the teacher that says, here's the test, and it's an open book one. Here's the answer, bro. I'm going to do this thing. There's going to be some difficulties. The way to navigate it, just trust me. Just trust me. Don't be rebellious. Just a quick, how do they say? It's a mushroom check for those of y'all that like your Mario Kaizo. That's a deep cut reference. That's a deep cut. It's a check to make sure that you're grown to a certain level before you can progress forward. That's all this was, man. Because y'all weren't, 40 years later, but we're here now. So no more manna. Because the manna was about provision, but the ultimate provision for them was the promised land.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you're at the fulfillment, you don't need the trailer anymore. You
can watch the movie.
Bruh, I'm
you get to live the movie.
Right. I'm a new covenant kind of guy, bro. Now that we're here, we don't need what came before,
Right. It served this purpose.
Manna is amazing. But if you can have manna or the promised land, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. As we see through the Pentateuch when they're traveling, when it shows up, it keeps them alive. It's not bland or anything like that. There's a flavor to it, but you have it every single day for 40 years. It's supposed to teach you something. You're alive because I gave you the resources you need. Because where are you right now? Are you in a land of plenty? You're in the friggin' desert, yokels. Okay? You think this is good? It's just going to pop up out of nowhere? This is barren. It is a wasteland. Yeah, sure, there's life, but it's not enough to feed 2 million people. Guess who can? Me. The one who made all you fools. The one who can put that man on the ground, making something from nothing, because I am the Almighty God. Okay, that's great. But what did I also tell you? That you were going to eat manna forever? No. That you were going to be in a land of milk and honey. There were going to be grapes and produce that you couldn't even count and experience that. And now the day is here. You don't need the milk anymore. You don't need the manna anymore. You're spiritually, you've grown. Eat and be merry.
That's what I'm talking about, bro. Preach it, man. Preach it, man. Didn't you ever notice the play on words with manna? That mug is funny.
What is this?
Bro. Yeah, what is this? But but it's bread from heaven, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's bread from heaven, and it showed up when they were rescued from Egypt, rescued from bondage, and then God says, now you're eating bread from heaven. But when it arrived, what did they call it? What is it? I don't recognize this. What exactly is this? Well, again, foreshadows, man. When the true bread from heaven showed up in Israel, what did they say to him? What are you? Who are you?
Who are you?
We don't recognize
Why should we listen to you?
This exactly. We're in bondage right now. A couple different ways, actually. We're in bondage, 8 ways from Saturday out here, bro. And the bread from heaven is sent down. What is it, God? Heck, Jesus even himself kind of pointed it out in John chapter 6. When, he multiplies the bread, the bread from heaven gives bread from heaven. Amazing stuff. Amazing. They recognize the lesson here. Oh, wow. When the people saw the sign he had done, they said, this truly is the capital P prophet who is to come into the world. They recognized him for what he was, according to John. But then they want to play games. And instead of consuming him spiritually, they want to say, give us more Wonder Bread. Come on now. Give us some more. They don't get it. They absolutely don't get it. What sign are you going to do so that we may see and believe you? Really? You were there when I multiplied the bread. Thanks for coming. What are you going to perform? Our ancestors ate the manna in the wilderness, just as it is written, he gave them bread from heaven to eat. Even by their own hypocritical standard, Jesus already had given them bread, just a day and a half ago. But yeah, whatever. Jesus said to them, truly, I tell you, Moses didn't give you the bread from heaven. That's how I know y'all don't read the scripture, says Jesus. Go back and read Numbers. Did Moses give you the bread? No. My Father gives you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is the one who comes down from heaven and gives life to the world. Then they said, sir, give us this bread always. Jesus was like, y'all are really slow. Let me just say it straight. I am the bread of life. No one who comes to me will ever be hungry, and no one who believes in me will ever be thirsty again. That is one of the points. That's one of the 2 New Testament lessons from the manna. The other lesson has to do with giving in 2 Corinthians 8, but conversation for the time.
Yeah.
Got to let your viewers have some homework, right?
You can't spell out everything for them.
I can't spell out everything, bro. I can't be a Christian for you. Come on, bro. I'm just a supplement.
It's astonishing that people can read the exact same book you and I are, and they can't correlate things. And they're honestly studying, they're honestly looking, they're seeking, but there's a part of them that goes, I don't get it. What? God hasn't foreshadowed any of this. God hasn't said this would happen. And yeah, it's happening right in front of our very faces. And when you actually study it, it's so blatant. You're like, how did I not see that the first time?
Depending on, the more and more I do this, the more and more I realize 2 things. One, we're spiritually blind, and these things are indeed spiritually discerned. I don't say that as a Calvinist, though, because I'm not one of those. I just feel you really do need the Spirit of God to help you read this because you're in rebellion, because you're hard-headed. It's really all it is. Jesus tells us in Matthew that, he and the Father are pleased to reveal these mysteries to little children, to those that are humble. But so often what happens in academia is the desire to be a scholar overrules and takes precedence over the desire to know Jesus and the desire to just let the text be the text. Because everyone wants to be a theologian, no one knows how to do theology. And I will stand 10 toes down on that. Because everyone wants to be a theologian, no one knows how to do theology. You need to learn from the Apostle Paul. All right, when you're on your high horse, you need to ask yourself, when's the last time Jesus knocked me off this mug?
And blinded me.
Yeah, I've been riding on this horse for a while without Jesus knocking me off. Are we good? It's been a while since the text actually humbled me. It's been a while since I really feel like I've come to a passage and the passage dwarfed me. What are we doing? What are we doing? I watch people debate online all the time as a way of sharpening my own sword. And I see people, Christians, make arguments that I know don't work. That I know don't work. And I'm not sure they know they don't work because you were trained in how to be a theologian first, not in how to be a Christian that knows how to get to the metropolis of Christ from any road in the scripture, from any little hamlet or village. Can you preach a text running along the road to Christ and get there without taking unnecessary detours into church fathers, without taking unnecessary detours into every church council except the Jerusalem one? All these things are the little, snowflakes on the windshield that 1 or 2 aren't going to accumulate your view too much. But the sum total of them, yeah, you might find out, oh, wow, I've been driving on the wrong road for a while. I thought I could see.
Well said. What do you want to get to the reason to why you're here today?
That oh my gosh, bro. See, listen. Side note, side tangent. All right. We have our own kind of friendly pseudo covenant between us for shows here. You know, I could have sworn there's an unspoken understanding that you were, the short one for sane people, for reasonable people, bro. I didn't even realize that you primed me to say all that coming up on verse 13. My gosh, bruh. Your talk no jutsu is disgusting, my friend. Absolutely disgusting. This man, bro. Oh my gosh, bruh. Yes, I would absolutely love to. If
all right,
you could
do
the honors.
Why don't you go ahead? Do you want me to read it, or you want to have it? Like this is your big moment, man.
I listen, man. It's your show. I'm nothing if not a gentleman nowadays.
All right, I'll take it then. 13 through 15. When Joshua was by Jericho, he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, a man was standing before him with his drawn sword in his hand. And Joshua went to him and said to him, "Are you for us or for our adversaries?"
Good question.
And he said, "No."
Oh, never mind.
"But I am the commander of the army of the Lord. Now I have come." And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and worshiped and said to him, "What does my Lord say to his servant?" And the commander of the Lord's army said to Joshua, "Take off your sandals from your feet, for the place where you are standing is holy."
Is holy.
And Joshua decided maybe later on. No. And Joshua did so.
Oh my gosh, bruh. One of my subtle proof texts that the sword in Revelation is not just metaphorical for his word, because here it's definitely not metaphorical. But that might be jumping the gun a little bit here. All right. Listen, when people tell the story of Jericho, people love and we marched around the walls and we had our faith and the walls came down. Yeah. I ain't even mad at that. All right.
Yeah.
Seen that sort of thing happen on my own life. I ain't mad at it. But man, what a crime it is to retell the story of Jericho on your flannel board and not have anything up there for the commander of the Lord's army. And can we confirm, by the way, that in this little section, when it says Lord, we're talking about Yahweh here?
Ooh. I would agree with that statement very much so.
The translators certainly do. It's all caps in my Bible, but I can rely on the knowledge of the scholar to the people today, bruh. It's Yahweh in this text. And in a very recent episode I did, shameless plug, very recent episode I did, that I think, the esteemed scholar to the people would co-sign, actually, that I did reconciling the food laws and whatnot. In a way that, not to toot my own horn, but I think makes a lot of, 8-hour multiple volume commentaries somewhat obsolete. What took y'all weeks, I did in an hour. Praise Yah, because he just gave me the cheat sheet. I was like, oh, that's right. Multiple food laws. But one of the principles that I talked about when we were exegeting Leviticus was, because we as Christians believe that the one God somehow mysteriously exists as three persons. Whenever you see the divine name Yahweh like this, all three persons share that name. So when you come to a text that mentions Yahweh in all caps, it can be appropriate sometimes to wonder, okay, it's one Yahweh, but which Yahweh we talking about? All three, just two, or one? Who? Yahweh the Father, Yahweh the Son, or Yahweh the Spirit? Who is the Yahweh that is doing the speaking here? Who is it? I would argue in this particular text, it is Yahweh the Son. I actually argue that for most everything in the Old Testament. Why do I do that? Well, because in verse 15, take off your sandals. The place where you're standing is holy. And also his identifier. He calls himself the commander of Yahweh's army. There's only one of those. Yahweh. Yahweh is the commander of Yahweh's army. I know, tough to understand. Tough to understand, folks. That the commander in chief happens to be the chief commander. Crazy concept. Crazy concept. But also, like I said, where this commander goes, the ground itself becomes holy. The ground itself becomes set apart. He touches things, they become cleaner. Who else has that power? Check Mark chapter 1. Who else has the power to touch unclean things and make them clean? Who else can do that but Yahweh? Right? And we saw this before with the burning bush. That's what he said. That's what God said to Moses. Or was it God? Was it? You know, that might be some homework as well. You know, go back to Exodus 3 and actually see who's the one speaking from the bush. Is it God or the angel of God? If you're a Unitarian, the answer is going to mess you up. The answer is going to mess you up. But that's what we see here. This commander, this divine messenger of God, who is himself God here. But I've also got the apostle on my side. John's Gospel, chapter 1, verse 18. No one has ever seen God. Semicolon space, the only God at the Father's side. He has made him known. That's the riddle of the Tanakh. We know that no one has ever seen God. And yet, at certain times, in certain places, in certain situations in history, some men and women claim that they did see God and didn't die. Is this a contradiction? I don't think so, because it's a riddle that the Tanakh forces into your face every other book. Riddles that are forced in the reader's face are never, to me, seen as contradictions. They're seen as invitations to think deeper about something, not just in the Bible, just any book. If the author is recognizing this seems like a contradiction and he's daring you to think harder, it's probably not. Probably not one. And so you go back into the Tanakh with this understanding, okay, no one's ever seen God, but the only God identified as the Word, who is Jesus, he was the one revealing God at all these moments where Yahweh is identified and people are having face-to-face interactions. It's the Son? It's Jesus? Yeah, according to the apostle. According to the apostle, it is. And so that's what we see here. Jesus in full military garb, drawn sword, commander of Yahweh's army. And Joshua says, are you for us or for our adversaries? Lesson. Life ain't about you. Life ain't about you. To the political parties of our day that want to weaponize Jesus, to the social movements and factions that want to weaponize Jesus and bicker and argue about, oh, are you for us, Jesus? Are you for us pro-choicers? Are you for us abolitionists? Are you for us Republicans or Democrats? Whose side are you on? And he just thunders back, no, I am the commander of the army of Yahweh. And the question that you need to ask yourself is not whose side am I on, is whose side are you on? Are you rolling in my chariot? Are you standing in front of my sword? Am I going to have to put you down? Am I going to have to put down your rebellion? My chariot is running. My chariot is on its way. Hear the wheels, hear creation shake and quake as the throne chariot of the Son of God readies for war. And ask yourself the question, on whose side am I on? On whose side am I on? Because that chariot, it's a coming. It's a coming. And depending on your orientation, that'll either be a great day or not so much. If you're in the chariot, it'll be a great day. That's what I would advise you. And that's Jesus's point to Joshua. This is not your enterprise, Joshua. This is not your endeavor. This is mine. So feet off, head down, and get to listening, because I got some battle plans for you. That is what I love about the story of Jericho. What happens to the city is an afterthought to me. It's a foregone conclusion that mug ain't gonna stand. But Jesus came to you. Jesus, yeah, but a wall miraculously fell. My Jesus showed up with a drawn sword in hand. I don't care. Relatively speaking, what happened to the city next chapter? Jesus is here. Let's look at him. Let's learn what he's about. Instead of focusing on the miracle, let's focus on the one that gave the miracle, on the one that commissioned it.
Now, I know as well, there's some people out there saying, you just want it to be Jesus because that fits what you're thinking. This is just an angel. Well, let's go with that premise for a second. Let's say it is. Remember Numbers, our time in Numbers. Numbers 22, 23. This is in the NLT. I got three, give me two other things after this. Balaam's donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with a drawn sword in his hand. The donkey bolted off the road into a field, but Balaam beat it and turned it back into the road. He would eventually temporarily fix his mistake. First Chronicles 21:16, CSB. When David looked up and saw the angel of the Lord standing between earth and heaven with his drawn sword in his hand, stretched out over Jerusalem, David and the elders covered in sackcloth fell face down. And he was saying that this could still be an angel. Sure. But let's see, because Joshua falls down in worship. Do we worship angels? Revelation 22, 8-9, NKJV. Now I, John, saw and heard these things. And when I heard and saw, I fell down to worship before the feet of the angel who showed me these things. Then he said to me, see that you do not do that, for I am your fellow servant, and of your brethren the prophets, and of those who keep the words of this book. Worship God. What does the commander of the Lord's army say? What does the angel of the Lord say to this man? Take your sandals off. This is holy ground.
That's holy
Worshiping him. If this is an angel, we've got stolen valor here.
Oh, I'm saying, bruh. I can't be a regular angel. Wanted. That's true. That's true. Oh my gosh, bruh.
If this is an angel, we just witnessed a fallen angel in real time. Because he took what wasn't his.
Yep.
This, my brothers and sisters, this is Jesus pre-incarnate. Those verses I quoted, those are not the only times he showed up. You can debate the rest. You can also debate whether Jesus' conquest of the four horsemen later on. There's pros and cons for arguments for each. Like, the point is, he's here before he shows up.
Man, amazing. I remember telling you that's how, I kind of saw things before. Man, you've been thinking about this, man. This man been thinking about this, man. That's amazing.
I aim to impress.
Oh man, I'm gonna add you one last one for this angel of the Lord, bruh. For this angel of the Lord. Go to Zechariah chapter 3. Go to Zechariah chapter 3, man.
Okay.
One of my favorite passages for this angel's divine. And Jesus, Zechariah 3, bro. So prophet Zechariah seeing a vision. We're just skipping to the good bit. In the vision, he showed me the high priest Joshua standing before the angel of the Lord with Satan at his right side to accuse him. The Lord said to Satan, the Lord rebuke you, Satan. May the Lord who has chosen Jerusalem rebuke you. Isn't that not an interesting phrase? He's standing before the angel of the Lord. And then it says, the Lord said to Satan, the Lord rebuke you. So the Lord is calling on himself? Nah, man. This is just like Sodom and Gomorrah. Yahweh called fire and brimstone from Yahweh out of heaven. The Lord said to Satan, the Lord rebuke you, Satan. May the Lord who has chosen Jerusalem rebuke you. Isn't this man Joshua a burning stick snatched from the fire? Your case against him does not work. He has been redeemed. That is the argument here. Now, Joshua was dressed with filthy clothes. He's in his high priestly garments, but they're filthy. The law is not enough. As he stood before the angel. So the angel of the Lord spoke to those standing before him, take off his filthy clothes. Then he said to him, see, I have removed your iniquity from you, and I will clothe you with festive robes. Then I said, let them put a clean turban on his head. So a clean turban was placed on his head, and they clothed him in garments while the angel of the Lord was standing nearby. Incredible. Incredible. My gosh. Then the angel of the Lord charged Joshua. This is what the Lord of armies says. This is what Yahweh of hosts says. If you walk in my ways and keep my mandate, you will both rule my house and take care of my courts. I will also grant you access among these who are standing here. Compare and contrast with the promises in Revelation. Those who conquer will sit with me on my Father's throne. That sounds like access among those who are standing there. What that sounds like to me. But the promise, the ultimate promise, listen, High Priest Joshua, you and your colleagues sitting before you, indeed, these men are a sign that I am about to bring my servant, the branch. So now we got the Father talking. I'm going to bring my servant, the branch. And you see how it's blended. It started off with the angel of the Lord speaking, and you can't quite tell when it switched to the Father, can you? You just know now that it is the Father. I'm about to bring my servant, the branch. Notice the stone I've set before Joshua. On that one stone are 7 eyes, and I will engrave an inscription on it. In other words, the stone itself will be a witness to the promise of God. And what is this promise? This is the declaration of the Lord of armies, and I will take away the iniquity of this land in a single day. On that day, each of you will invite his neighbor to sit under his vine and fig tree. This is the declaration of the Lord of armies. Me, oh my. Well, how on earth did he take away the iniquity of the land in a single day? How did he do that? How did he do that? And he said he would do it. Nah, man. Nah, man. This angel is God and also distinct from God. So says the prophets.
You can argue against it as much as you want. I don't think you'll be on the winning team.
I don't think you'll be on the winning team either. Bro. You know, just what it teaches, man. Just what it teaches.
And this is also personal to Joshua, too. I mean, yes, pre-incarnate Christ, we're there. But there's also something happening in the then present. Joshua's been told by God, be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid. Lead my people. As your predecessor Moses did. And what did I do for Moses? I showed up. So you get to have that extra confidence, Joshua. You're going to go out there and do this and know that I am behind you. It should be sufficient that I tell you to do what I told you to do. But you know what? Because I love you, I'm going to show up personally. And you're taking that city. Here's how it's going to be done.
Man. Incredible, bro. Incredible, man. Salvation is such the same way. Such the same way, man. Having a conversation with with one of the Muslims these last couple of weeks. And he said to me, like, how do you know? How do you know? You know, you're given a good logical argument for the reliability of the text. How do you know it's this? How do you know that this reliably transmitted text is telling the truth? That was his actual question. That was what he meant. Good question. I brought him to John. And I said, Jesus said, everyone that loves him and keeps his commands, the Father, himself, the Son, and the Spirit will make their home with him. Right? And it's amazing. And I really don't want to strip the hallmark lovey-doveyness from that because it's definitely there. But I also want to replace, I want to put back in a little bit of that fear of Yahweh. This is who moves in. The commander of the armies of Yahweh, who owns this sword, but out of mercy comes to you with that sword in its sheath and says, I actually took the sword of God for you. So let's ride. It makes the cross more beautiful when you realize this is who Jesus is. This one went to a cross for me. This one set aside his armor, put down his sword for a season, left it upstairs with the Father, and said, I'm going to limit myself to play the game the way that they do, but with all the perfection and power of God. And I'm going to die for them. If you thought the gospel was unbelievable before you realized who the angel of Yahweh is, the love of God becomes downright unfathomable when you see this is who he is. The one that stood before Balaam in the way went to a cross for me, and not just on a whim, as we saw in Zechariah. That seems to have always been the plan. I'm going to remove the iniquity of the land in a single day. I'm going to do that. What manner of love is this? Just like who am I? Like, who am
Nothing.
I that this one would think of me so highly? And I say, like David did in the Psalms, I would be nothing but a pauper if not for the fact that Yahweh of hosts thought about me, actually considered me. That's who Jesus is. That's who the God of the Bible is.
My Lord and my God.
Akiriasmu hatheasmu, my Lord and my God. My gosh. My gosh. And we ain't even at the Jericho city part yet.
The tears have fallen, but the walls haven't yet.
Oh my gosh. Oh man. Man. That's a good point. That's a good point. Then let's move on to those walls. Unless
All right.
Unless you have a send off on this section.
What am I supposed to say? Who wants to be the guy that goes second best after that opening speech? Be like, this debate club, we're on the same side, but what he said.
But what he said. Oh my gosh. My gosh. I'll switch it up and I'll read the first 11 verses here and then you
Go for it.
Oh man. Let's see, ESV, because I'm on your show. ESV, chapter 6, verse 1. Now Jericho was shut up inside and outside because of the people of Israel. None went out and none came in. And the Lord, Yahweh, said to Joshua, see, I've given Jericho into your hand with its king and mighty men of valor. You shall march around the city, all the men of war going around the city once. Thus you shall do for 6 days. 7 priests shall bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark. On the 7th day you shall march around the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow the trumpets. And when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, when you hear the sound of the trumpet, then all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city will fall down flat. And the people shall go up, everyone straight before him. So Joshua, the son of Nun, called the priests and said to them, take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of Yahweh. And he said to the people, go forward, march around the city, and let the armed men pass on before the ark of Yahweh. And just as Joshua had commanded the people, the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns before Yahweh went forward, blowing the trumpets with the ark of the covenant of Yahweh following them. The armed men were walking before the priests who were blowing the trumpets, and the rear guard was walking after the ark while the trumpets blew continually. But Joshua commanded the people, you shall not shout or make your voice heard, neither shall any word go out of your mouth until the day I tell you to shout. Then you shall shout. So he caused the ark of Yahweh to circle the city, going about it once, and they came into the camp. And spent the night in the camp. Right?
Our military people out there, once again, this is stupid. This makes no logical sense whatsoever. And you know what? That's our God. And I am so very happy to see verses like this, because as someone who likes to be as logical as possible, who likes to, make his plans and say, this is what I'm going to do here. If someone says this, I'm going to say that in response. Things like this confound me, because there's that part of me that goes, if I was there, would I have done this?
Mm-hmm.
Because I would feel like a fool in my human wisdom, my human logic. This is not how you conduct a siege. This is not how you practice war. You're not even encircling the city. You're in camp.
You're tracing a circle, but you're not encircling.
No one would ever do this unless they had faith in their God to get the work done. And on my best days, I'm completely silent along with the rest of them traveling around. Mm-hmm. And on the 7th day, you better believe I've been building up to that shout. Hasn't happened yet, but it's building up. Because this is another test. God tests people, and that's not a bad thing. We assume if someone tests us, they don't love us or they don't trust us. No, this is giving you an opportunity to prove you're trustworthy, to prove that I don't have to be behind your back and micromanage everything you do, Israel. Show me this faith. Do this stupid thing, walking around a city and not saying a word for 6 days and then a 7th. That's God's wisdom looking at human wisdom and saying, pshaw. Or if you want to get more biblical about it, we'll go 1 Corinthians 3, 18 through 19. This is NASB. Take care that no one deceives himself. If anyone among you thinks that he is wise in this age, he must become foolish, so that he may become wise. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness in the sight of God. For it is written, he is one who catches the wise by their craftiness. God would catch me by my so-called craftiness every single day if he didn't remind me that I need to become a fool to actually become wise.
We preaching. We preach mode right now, man. That is so true. That is so true.
You know what? The Israelites aren't the only people being tested here. There's an entire city, some of which Rahab's family is watching this too, because they've got, they got their high def TV, looking outside the walls of the city, watching this happen every day, wondering, this is the camp we signed up for? This is the God we signed up with? And the Canaanites in Jericho, same thing. This is what we were so afraid of. This is how they conduct a war. Well, these scrubs from the desert don't know anything. Maybe we can actually win this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe we could repent. And yet, we're going to see there's only a select group of people who do.
Yeah. You know, I have quite the meditation for that part. For that part about, like, to me, Jericho's reaction is rather odd. But it's like a warning of what idolatry does to you. You know, it can handcuff your repentance if you're deep in that mug. They were terrified. So why didn't they repent? They weren't responding with arrogance, as we'll find later. They were scared out of their minds. So why didn't you repent? You know that you could have. Rahab did. So why didn't you? Idolatry, man. It'll have a chokehold on you. You can know the thing is bankrupt. You can know that it's bankrupt and going to kill you. But because you so wed yourself to this thing, you're just like, I just can't bear to see it go. Even though I know what's coming for me. Don't be like that, man. So that's all I can say. You know, I'm not powerful enough to undo that kind of warpage on a human soul, but all I can do is urge and pray. Don't be like that. Don't be like that. But also the question,
time and time again, how it fails. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say the question, right? Will you speak when God tells you to speak? Or will you remain silent? You know? Because this miracle would not have happened had they not done it. Had they stayed silent when they were supposed to speak, an enemy stronghold would not have come down. Lesson for the church today, right? Jericho is a physical stronghold, but it's meant to represent something else entirely for us. The words of Paul, 2 Corinthians 10, verses 3-6. For although we live in the flesh, we do not wage war according to the flesh. What do you think he's referencing here? Old Testament warfare. He's not saying it's bad. He's saying it's a typology for us. Their physical warfare, among many other purposes, one of the purposes was for us, modern followers of Yahweh, to be able to see invisible spiritual realities that are tough for us to conceptualize played out on the stage of time so we can better understand the commands of the new covenant. For although we live in the flesh, we do not wage war according to the flesh. Since the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but are powerful through God for the demolition of strongholds. Jericho. Israel also didn't really use weapons of war. They used praise. The weapons of our warfare are not according to the flesh. They're not physical, but they can destroy strongholds. Okay, well, if they're not physical weapons, are the strongholds physical? No, says Paul. The strongholds for us, we demolish arguments and every proud thing that is raised up against the knowledge of God. I think the ESV says we demolish arguments and every lofty opinion that raises itself against the knowledge of God.
Sounds right.
The ESV says it. And we take every thought captive to obey Messiah. And we're ready to punish any disobedience once your obedience is complete. And so those are the strongholds we tear down, right? But oftentimes we don't want to do that. We're prisoners of war of the zeitgeist of our age that says, don't debate, don't argue. It would be rude to impose your opinion on people. And to all that, the man or woman of God needs to see all of that and just eat it and say, that's tough. That's tough. This is where we have a clash of cultures. All right. Satan's kingdom, the kingdom of darkness with its capital city being Sin City, they don't believe in arguing, or at least they don't think they do. They don't think they do. The kingdom of God is rather honest about this. No. If you got some nonsensical argument, some nonsensical philosophy, or just some old proud thing that wants to raise itself up against the knowledge of Yahweh, we're going to tear it down. Well, with how much zeal should you tear it down? Look to the Tanakh. Look to the Tanakh. How did they deal with those kingdoms? How did they deal with the idols of their day? They threw them down. They smashed them, turned them to rubble, atomized them, never to rise again.
Devoted to destruction, as we'll see in a bit.
That's what we do to anti-Christian arguments with the goal of rescuing people from these demonic ways of thinking that are robbing them of the fullness of the human experience.
Every single person out there who doesn't have faith in Christ has a reason for why they don't. Don't have good arguments. Say, yeah, I was hurt by the church, or, I've thought about this and can't really wrestle with the problem of evil the way that you can, or there'll be other people out there who are not academically and intellectually honest, and they just want to devote themselves to sin, and they won't say it out loud. And there's other people who are very honest, and they say, if I serve God, I have to sin. I can't sin the way I want to. And we're seeing these people here have plenty of opportunities. 6 days after fearing God for 40 years because of what happened at the Red Sea, and fearing him again in recent weeks with the parting of the Jordan River. And they're not even being threatening. The swords aren't drawn. The commander of the Lord's army shows up, he's got a drawn sword. Mm-hmm. The people of God, this specific time, ain't a weapon among them. Drawn out. And yeah, we're supposed to follow good tactics when it comes to reaching out to people like this, to dismantle those arguments, to devote them to destruction, not to devote the person to destruction, because we're not called to do so like they are right here. There's a difference. We've been reading the same book. You know the reasons why. And if you don't, we can talk about it later on. But I had something. Sorry. There was a car honking back there and it really distracted me. But what we need to do is be wise by looking like fools. This world sees meekness, it sees rationality and love. I'm not saying these people aren't rational. I'm not saying they don't know anything about love, but there's true love, capital L, love, working for our capital G God, who is doing capital G good in the world. They need to understand that they're foolish to God and to the world, thinking themselves wise, when they could be foolish to the ways of the world and be wise with God.
Yeah.
Because one day he's going to shout. He's going to show up with drawn sword, and the receipts are going to show whose side they were on.
Yep.
And once again, I will say it every single time. I take no pleasure in that. I'd hate to meet the person who does, but I also can say with full confidence, they had plenty of chances to join the winning team. So I shed a tear, but I don't spend my life in mourning.
Yeah, that's really what it is. Tragedy of it. And especially like you said, the receipts will be shown. Receipts will be shown. Like, no one's going to be able to morally grandstand to God the way that they can morally grandstand against limited, redeemed human beings that don't know your past. I will find myself in conversation with people that are saying the craziest positive moral things, and I'm like 100% sure that they're lying through their teeth. I just can't prove it.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, fine, whatever. I hear people say stuff all the time. I was hurt by the church, yada, yada, yada. Some people are telling the truth. A lot of the people that say that are lying and exaggerating through their teeth because they know you can't call the bluff. You weren't there. You weren't there at whatever church, so I can just say whatever happened there. And you just have to take my word for it. But on that day, when the receipts are shown, he knows everything. No. When you gave your whole 30-minute soliloquy about church hurt, I know what happened. Your mom didn't let you play Mortal Kombat as a kid. I know what happened. I know what actually happened. You know what I mean? Like, and when that gets exposed, it's like, oh, wow, the silliness of it. The silliness of, I let myself be led astray by this guy? By this yuckle? By this yodel? Really? Yeah, like that's gonna be a tough day, man. It's gonna be a tough day.
Mm-hmm. What do you say we get into 12 through 25?
Oh yeah.
That much closer to the end. Then Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priest took up the ark of the Lord. And the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord walked on, and they blew the trumpets continually. And the armed men were walking before them, and the rear guard was walking after the ark of the Lord, while the trumpets blew continually. And the second day they marched around the city once, and returned into the camp. So they did for 6 days. On the 7th day they rose early at the dawn of day, and marched around the city in the same manner 7 times. It was only on that day that they marched around the city 7 times. And at the 7th time, when the priests had blown the trumpets, Joshua said to the people, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city. And the city and all that is within it shall be devoted to the Lord for destruction. Only Rahab the prostitute and all those who are with her in her house shall live, because she hid the messengers whom we sent. But you keep yourselves from the things devoted to destruction, lest when you have devoted them, you take any of the devoted things and make the camp of Israel a thing for destruction and bring trouble upon it. But all silver and gold, and every vessel of bronze and iron are holy to the Lord. They shall go into the treasury of the Lord." So the people shouted, and the trumpets were blown. As soon as the people heard the sound of the trumpet, the people shouted a great shout, and the wall fell down flat, so that the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they captured the city. Then they devoted all in the city to destruction, both men and women, young and old, oxen, sheep, and donkeys, with the edge of the sword. But to the 2 men who had spied out the land, Joshua said, "Go into the prostitute's house, and bring out from there the woman and all who belonged to her, as you swore to her." So the young men who had been spies went in and brought out Rahab and her father and mother and brothers and all who belonged to her. And they brought all her relatives and put them outside the camp of Israel. And they burned the city with fire and everything in it. Only the silver and gold and the vessels of bronze and of iron they put into the treasury of the house of the Lord. But Rahab the prostitute and her father's household and all who belonged to her, Joshua saved alive. And she has lived in Israel to this day, because she hid the messengers whom Joshua sent to spy out Jericho.
Yeah. Gotta love this stuff, man. Got to love this stuff. Wall just fell down flat, and they just raised the place. Something I think that's worth pointing out to short-sighted people is that God can do what he wants, but I'll kind of elaborate on that in time. But the restrictions that are placed here are not like they weren't allowed to loot the place. Like the vessels of gold and silver and whatnot, yeah, those went into the temple. But even that is like, the Levites didn't own anything.
Uh-huh.
So like
it wasn't for them.
Yeah, it literally wasn't. They had no way to use it within Israel. And every other tribe, God's like, yeah, you can't take this stuff for yourself. I can't remember if Achan took something from Jericho or like from some other city later on, but like we see God judge Israel for imperialistic conquest. Like when they go on missions, like
it's another city,
divine judgment missions. Yeah, another city. When they go on divine missions like this that are supposed to be for judgment, and they instead reduce what should be judgment to imperialism for the sake of enriching their own coffers. God judges Israel very severely for that. Don't turn my judgment into your own excuse for imperialism.
Mm-hmm.
And, skeptics or whatever listening that disagree with that, no, it is imperialism. Well, no, it's not, because imperialism usually, privateer rules. You help us, you can enrich yourself on the back end. But God says, nope, not here. Not here. Because this isn't about you, remember? That's why the commander of the Lord's army showed up. Whose side are you on? No. Are you on my side? If I was on your side, then yes, I would be enriching your coffers. I would be acting for the sake of your imperialism. But I'm not on your side. You're on my side.
No.
We march for the glory and renown of my name. And justice is the foundation of my throne. I don't have a bone to pick with them because they're different than you. I have a bone to pick with them because they're spiritually wicked, and the spiritual wickedness is leading to a bunch of injustice in the society. Murder, rapes, child sacrifices. They had 4 centuries plus a 40-year mulligan. Their time is up. This has nothing to do with you guys being awesome. As a matter of fact, pay attention to what you do to them. And if you do what they do, you'll be next. So again, you don't have to like that, but to try to paint that as the equivalent of secular imperialism is the kind of dishonesty that I tend to rail against all the time, very, very vocally. You don't have to like Christianity. All I ask is that you don't lie on his name. But the fact that you do lie on his name, I don't know. To me, it's one of those things. It's like, you know it's true. That's why you have to misrepresent it to attack it. Because the actual thing, Christianity, is unassailable. Absolutely unassailable. But also, verse 25 is almost like it, I don't know, feels kind of matriarchal almost. The way it's worded, Rahab the prostitute and her father's household and all who belong to her. It's like the one that gets elevated above the house is the one that had the faith. Like, I don't even know if anyone else in the house necessarily had Rahab's faith.
Not stated.
Or if they just had enough faith to simply not rat her out, which is not quite the same level of faith that Rahab had to invite them in the first place. Yeah, it's just interesting to me. Like, women aren't respected. She was dang near royalty in Israel, bro. What are you talking about? Literally in the royal line of the king of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
What are we talking about, bro? What are we actually talking about?
Death was called for her name, and yet, because of her faith, God said no.
Because of her faith.
Just like God has said that to every single one of us who said yes to him, death is called, death is needed to make things right between you and me.
Yep.
But guess what? It doesn't have to be you.
Yep. And interesting enough, right? Like, why was Rahab saved? I would also argue on the merits of the blood of Jesus.
Yeah.
And the faith justified her action, right? Or sorry, her action justified her faith. My bad. But that's what we see here, right? Like, yeah, you did a good thing in, advancing the kingdom of God. Doesn't change the fact that you are a prostitute. You engage probably within the religious, the sexual false religion of the day. Who knows what Rahab's rap sheet is like? One good deed, to quote a certain Asgardian, one good deed is not enough to wipe out an entire ledger of red. Okay. It is not enough. Not enough.
Yes.
So on what basis does Rahab get a pardon? Is it favoritism? No. Grace. It's grace. She's saved on credit, just like everyone else in the Old Testament. You'll be paid for. Just trust in me. Just trust in me. Sign on with me. They have refused the credit card of Christ, so they are devoted to destruction.
Rahab knows nothing about the law. She has no idea of the prophet greater than Moses. She has no idea of the beginning of the world, how sin was introduced and her place in it. All she understands is that the God who parted the Red Sea and will part the Jordan is the true God.
Yep.
Is one. Yeah, maybe she devoted herself to some Baal or Asherah or whoever in the city. We don't know. It's not stated out loud. But she saw where she lived. She saw what could be. And she went for truth instead.
Yeah.
As opposed to however many people were in Jericho.
Yep.
Saw the exact same things.
God, the one true God, is offering me a pardon, a stay of execution. And for whatever reason, I seem to be the only one sane enough to understand that's actually a good deal.
A bargain.
A bargain, even. Yeah. I don't have to do anything? Really? All right. You know, this is one of those examples where, like, you can talk trash about, well, Rahab only converted out of fear, so is it worth it? Yeah. And what kind of question is that? Like, what? Yes. She didn't even lose her household. Complete family transplant into, what are you talking about?
Refer to earlier discussion on true fear.
Yeah. Like, what? Wild, man. Absolutely wild.
This isn't the hellfire and brimstone. If you left this church right now and things aren't right between you and Jesus and you get ran over by that car, you're going straight to hell. Like, there's something very different here in how she approaches her fear.
And that's true. I'm not, like, I don't want to undermine that, but it's just that, like, there's a certain kind of arrogance that will even use the example you just gave and act like on Judgment Day, if that's how you actually went out, that would be like a good argument. You know what I mean? Like that's a horrible argument. Yeah. I'm a respiratory therapist. I work in critical care. Literally last night, we had a young lady, motor vehicle accident, apparently wasn't wearing a seatbelt because she was ejected through the windshield. Both femurs fractured. One of those femurs fractured in two places, just a totally floating section of bone, pelvis fractured and all that. Maybe she lives, maybe she doesn't. But let's run the scenario right now that, she just died instantly, right? What if someone had told her a few hours prior to that accident, hey, you should get right with Jesus because you don't know. You could get in a car accident tonight.
Yeah.
You would call that fear mongering. But then she actually gets in a car accident that night and wasn't right with Jesus. So in hindsight, I guess the street preacher had a point.
On the presentation.
Like that's the insanity of our culture. Is like when you stand before God and you say, like how silly will it be when you're standing before God and he says, why didn't you accept the free gift of salvation? Why did you not accept that? Are you really going to be so asininely arrogant as to say, because I didn't like the package it came in? Is that really that's the one argument you're running with, and you think that makes sense? You think that makes sense? So again, let's go back to our, bilateral femur fracture chick. Let's say she doesn't die instantly, Let's come back to our reality, But instead, let's change the story again. Let's say she's perfect, mentally she's perfectly there, conscious, has her wits about her the whole time. Does it make sense for her in her situation, broken, banged up as she is, to refuse the paramedic scooping her up off the ground because he says some sort of a microaggression to her in how he offers to save her life? Let's push it even further. Let's say that the patient in question is black. And let's say that the particular paramedic, let's say he's a member of the Ku Klux Klan. I'm trying to make this as crazy as I can. And let's say that he's still going to offer to save her and do medicine on her because he likes being paid more than he likes being racist, but he is aggressively racist. Does it make sense for her, as banged up as she is in that situation, to refuse to be saved by that Klansman because he's evil? If it doesn't make sense for you to refuse the life-saving treatment of an evil paramedic when your life is on the line, how much sillier is it to refuse the soul-saving rescue of the all-good, all-gracious, all-merciful God? Because the particular child he sent to you is still a little rough around the edges. Absolute insanity. Insanity. People that say, well, fire and brimstone preaching doesn't work. Well, one, I know a bunch of people that were saved off fire and brimstone preaching. I myself am one of them. You don't understand how rebellious I was. No love letter was going to do it for me. I needed the fist of God to kind of, whoa. But more to the point, it is such man-centered thinking to think that God has to tailor his message around what offends mankind. The fact that he does is grace. He does not have to. Refer back to the earlier chapter. Whose side are you on? Wrong question. Ask again. That's the nonsense here, Humility.
Yeah.
That's what fallen man is so bad at. So bad at. Dying in a pool of your own blood. You offended me, God. Try again. I don't think you understand your situation here, sir.
It's the difference between looking at the cross, at the crucifixion, and the centurion saying, truly, this was a man of God. And the Jewish leader saying, yeah, you get exactly what you deserve, Jesus.
Yeah. Now that's not a blank check to just be jerks to people because,
yeah.
You don't want to be Peter's cutting off spiritual ears and preventing people from hearing, but this is more, a heart check for those that are hearing, right? Like, you can't control how people preach the gospel to you, but if you know that the Spirit of God is calling you, answer him. Don't get so caught up on the vessel.
Imperfect people can deliver imperfect messages that somehow get people to faith.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're okay with that in every other venue of life, except this one, because we're hypocrites that love our evil.
And yeah, there's a great distinction you brought up between, like, yes, there is hellfire and brimstone preaching. We should be adding to our preaching because there is literal hellfire heading for some people's paths. Between like the stereotypical person who doesn't actually care about the flock and is just doing that to control them.
Correct.
Yeah, there's a big difference.
Yeah. It's like, where are they trying to lead you with fear? Are they trying to lead you with fear to the cross or to their own pocketbook?
Mm-hmm.
If it's to their own pocketbook, you need to get out of there because they're probably not even preaching hell right, if we're going to be totally honest. if we're taking all things together here.
Yeah. But what do you say we end off today with verses 26 and 27?
Oh, yes. I forgot these were even here. Looking at them now, I'm like, golly, bro. One last Christophany, huh? Let's do it.
Joshua laid an oath on them at that time, saying, cursed before the Lord be the man who rises up and rebuilds this city Jericho. At the cost of his firstborn shall he lay its foundations, and at the cost of his youngest son shall he set up its gates. So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame was in all the land. And I'll throw you a little bonus in for free. Why don't we skip ahead to 1 Kings 16:34, NIV. In Ahab's time, Hiel of Bethel rebuilt Jericho. He laid its foundations at the cost of his firstborn son, Abiram, and he set up its gates at the cost of his youngest son, Segub, in accordance with the word of the Lord spoken by Joshua, son of Nun.
I completely forgot that he did that. My gosh, bro. My gosh, man.
Well, tell me, why would he do such a thing, Karai? The city's already gone. Why curse a city that's not there anymore? Like,
my
the land is
gosh,
there.
bro.
It was built there for a reason. You can rebuild it.
My gosh, bro. Because the kings were dumb like we are. But also for the same reason that Lot's wife became salt. Why on earth are you turning back to idolatry? Why on earth are you turning back? But especially you, because like you're in the promised land, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Lot's wife, all she saw was judgment, you know? Didn't have much of a destination. You guys have a destination. like what you're in it. You have a home now by the time it's First Kings. Like what are we doing here, bro? What are we doing here? But also because, all right, well, if you don't want my firstborn to die for you, then it'll cost you yours. Like the judgment itself parallels the mercy, right? Cursed be Yahweh. Cursed before Yahweh be the man who rises up and rebuilds this city, Jericho. At the cost of his firstborn shall he lay its foundation, and at the cost of his youngest son shall he set up its gates. And yet, God, in order to create a foundation for New Jerusalem, takes that curse on himself. At the cost of God's firstborn, did God lay the foundation for New Jerusalem? Incredible. Incredible. You know, why on earth are you going to send your son to die for your kingdom when I've already sent my son to die for mine? Silliness. Absolute silliness.
Why rebuild
Judgment
what I
is so
devoted
harsh. Yeah.
to destruction? Why rebuild what I devoted to destruction? Well, we know why. Because they want to honor what was made there in the first place. They want to sin again.
Mm-hmm.
And returning to sin is deathly.
Well, I mean, it's an indictment that you didn't actually devote it to destruction, right?
Yeah.
Or else
you came back.
Yeah. It's all just religiosity to you. It's the Old Testament version of Ananias and Sapphira.
Mm.
You know, you said that you gave all, but you didn't. That's the lie. You know, people
and you
think,
weren't even told to give everything.
Yeah, exactly. You know, the problem with Ananias and Sapphira was not that they gave too little. That wasn't the issue. It was that they presented part, but masked it as if they gave all. That's the problem. That's the problem. God does not want half-hearted devotion masquerading as full devotion. Because then the Gentiles make light of the name of Yahweh. And that cannot happen. As Malachi the prophet said to us, man, Yahweh is a king, and he will be honored as such by the nations.
Unless you have anything else to say, I think that's how we're going to end today.
No. I'm good. That was
okay. Well, imagine that. Christian and Karai show up again, and what happens? 2 hours of entertainment for everyone.
Oh my gosh, that was so good. Oh, that was so good. That was so good.
Nah, I'm so glad to have you aboard for this one, brother.
Oh yeah, man. Pray for, just pray for me in general, however you feel led to pray, probably what needs to be prayed for me. Additionally though, just pray that enough snow melt to be able to get out of the city, to be able to get back to the hospital fine and all this stuff. And also, pray for, the new gospel efforts going on the foreign saint side of things, gospel to the nations and all that.
Which they can find on
which they can find on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and a couple other podcast platforms as well. I've got a couple of long form videos, kind of sort of changed my mind style, with a couple of Muslims, one from Canada, one from Ethiopia, and more inbound, along with a bunch of other great stuff, coming down the pike. If you're curious about the data and damages around same-sex parenting and adoption, I think that's the newest episode on Foreign Saints right now. But as usual, we'll let Christian do his outro. But if you'll allow me the indulgence of a prayer here before you do.
Have at it.
Oh, man. Holy Father, righteous Son, King of the universe, and Spirit of God who gives the new birth. Thank you for every fruit that blooms on the vine, and especially the fruit that you cause to bloom within each and every one of us, God. Thank you for just being able to fellowship with Christian and just read the word and present that to people to just behold your glory, the glory of your Son in the text, Father. And thank you for giving us everything that we need for life, godliness, and the service of you through the eternal blood of the covenant with the Son. It's in your name that we pray. Thank you. And amen.
Amen. Thanks for joining me, Karai. Thanks you guys for listening. Please do get a chance to leave a 5-star review on your podcasting platform of choice. Help us with the ratings there. Help us find more people. Feel free, as always, to share the show with your friends and family members. If you're interested in my own fiction writing, you can find my works at starvingwritersguild.com or on Amazon by searching for the name MC Ashley. If you're interested in some further solid studies into the Bible and its teachings, then check out the other members of the NSL Ministries podcasting network. You can find me specifically on systematic ecology, Why I Don't Like, Friday Night Frights, Spidey Swing Bys, and some joyful noises, about 5 other shows I'm sure I'm on that I don't know about. You can contact me at letnothingmoviepodcast@gmail.com. I'd like to extend a special thank you to Joshua Knoll for the editing that he does and for the music he has to the podcast. And with all that in mind, God bless you all in accordance to his will, not mine. Now allow me one more time to remind you, let nothing move you.